There you go.
There we go.
When in
Okay, so
doubt.
we're recording and we're live. Okay, awesome. So, hey, Walt, how are you? Good, good. So I'm going to stop the video for right now for all our guests in here for purposes of our Facebook Live. So I am going to share my screen. Let me make
Please
sure.
do.
See, I had all the stuff pulled off. Okay, here, let me go back before I...
So while you're doing that, Stephanie, I'm just going to introduce ourselves just in case anyone doesn't know who we are. My name is Halley Wright. I'm the team leader here for Keller Williams Coastal Properties. And we have the lovely Stephanie Alatorre, who is the team leader out of Keller Williams Calabasas. And we're going to be talking to you guys about how to write the perfect, well, almost perfect offer right now, if there is such a thing as perfect. So.
Yeah, okay, here. I'm sharing my screen. Okay, perfect. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a brand new listing, guys, that popped up on, it's actually a brand new listing in Camarillo. It's 3 days on the market. It's by one of our Calabasas agents. And okay. So it's an interesting home. So what I'm going to do right now, we want to kind of take you through the whole thing. So this came on the market. Your buyers are like, hey, you know what? I'm looking for an investment property, or I want to fix something up, whatever the case may be. And let's check it out and see, we're going to kind of go through the process together to see what you guys think.
Great.
So I'm going to expand the pictures. Okay.
So the first thing on the checklist that Stephanie's going through, and then I can share the Word document too, talking about pre-offer stuff, is check the MLS listing, right? So that's what Stephanie's doing right now. She's checking the MLS listing for any details, any, private remarks, any of that information that could be brought up, inclusions, exclusions from the sale, all of that is what she's looking at right now.
Yes, thank you, Hallie. So we want to, so let's just take a look at the pictures. So as you can see, it needs some work, right? It's, hold on, I'm letting people in and trying to do this. So there's definitely some work that needs to be done on this house. It's probably going to be attracted by a lot of investors, right? To see what opportunities that are there, right? Do you guys all agree? That is probably a fixer and it's been run down. So we just looked at the pictures. So now, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's listed at $599, 1,300 square feet, 7,400 square foot lot.
Oh, it's a probate listing.
Yep. So we always read all the comments, right? So then we go down to, you always want to check out the private remarks. So it is, home is vacant, easy to show, please text me. And obviously in the description, she did indicate in there that this is a probate property with no court approval showing. And then showings are COVID compliant, right? We always have to make sure that we follow all the rules and regs of the bid, right? So now you're like, okay, your clients want to make an offer. So what do they want to make the offer at? So as you know, $599 is a relatively sweet spot. It's like, okay, what are other homes selling for? If you have an investor, what kind of money do they have to put into the property? What can they get out of it, right? So their ROI, etc. So what I like to do is then pull up, and let me go back to the results here. So I had already done a map, okay? A map, it's kind of a delay here. I drew my polygon, right? So I did this in advance instead of waiting, but we always kind of want to look in the area specifically to see what's happening and what's going on. any recent sales, etc. So I know Las Posas, I'm not necessarily totally familiar with all these homes over here, but I drew a rather large polygon and asked for, anything that was coming soon, that was active, that was under contract, that had closed in the last 60 days, right? So only 4 came up, right? So only 4 properties. So maybe let's just do this and see what happens. Because the prices and everything is moving so quickly, but let's do 90 days and see if we get, we get one more. Oh no. Oh, nothing's just happening over there in that particular area. So this gives you an opportunity to look and see, okay, this is the only listing that is available right now. So they have no competition, right? Then we go and look and see the other ones that are under contract, right? And so what you'll want to do is just take a look at these properties to see, okay, here's one, that is 1,170 square feet. It's under contract. Let me take a look at this house, right? Obviously, it's a little bit smaller. But one thing that I like to do is, I'll look through the pictures, right? Read the description, read the, any private remarks, etc. And see what's going on. And then also I go check the history of it. So look at it went on the market on February 8th, and it changed to under contract. They accepted an offer 7 days later, right? So you can tell that there's massive quick movement in the home. And then I would go back, right, and then call the agent. Hey, let's see, who is it? Hey, Linda. Linda, what's up, right? What is, you're not gonna really say that, but hey, Linda, I just wanted to call and check in. And I noticed that this went obviously into contract quickly. It's still under contract, but can you let me know if it happened to go, did you have a bidding war? Did you have a lot of offers? Are you above list price? Just ask them some questions and see what information that they can reveal to you, right? Let's go back here. But as you can see, there's not a whole lot of activity and things are moving quickly. Okay, so now it comes time, I know what you guys are all wanting to do is get to the actual offer price, right? I mean, not the offer price, but writing the offer. So again, you want to have conversations with the listing agents on the other properties, just to see if they will be able to share any kind of information that's going on. You may want to even in your criteria, go back, just for, blank and giggles, 6 months, just to see, has there, what kind of activity has been going on there. And you can, if there's stuff that has closed maybe 4 or 5 months ago, or you can always expand your search. Right? So then with this particular type of property, you're probably only going to be dealing with cash buyers on this. So again, that's having conversations with your client, making sure that they have their verification of funds or proof of funds. And like I said, this wouldn't probably get approved for an FHA loan. I don't know if it would get approved for any kind of loan. Obviously, I'm just being speculative based on just pictures alone. But it didn't really look, I don't even know if it's completely, it may be inhabitable. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know it's oh God, we're getting feedback. Yeah, no, I think that's good, and remember with the comps, when it comes to having a difficulty of finding about how much something should be and whether something's a real good price, remember, think about keeping the things that make you in alignment with the market, right? Price, availability, location, because if you're finding a difficulty to find comps, more than likely when the appraiser comes in, they're going to have the same type of issues. So in the sense of writing the offer, you can always reach out to the agent and ask which comps they use to price the property. That's something else that might help. Maybe there was something For some reason, it's just not pulling up on the MLS, but there was a sale just down the street that what they used to really justify their pricing. Now you're muted. I'll mute myself now.
All right, thanks, Hallie. Yeah, the most important conversation to be had for sure before you write an offer is with the listing agent to find out what kind of activity is going on, what is the seller, or well, this is a probate. So just kind of get an idea of where she thinks that everybody's at, so on and so forth. You know what? We're going to pretend, because I didn't pull up the probate, we're going to pretend that this is not a probate sale.
Yeah, I was going to say, you picked a tricky one. Steph, if you don't mind, before we start writing the offer, can we go through the Word document of some of the other things about calling the listing agent? If you could just let me, oh, perfect. Perfect. Hang on just one second here, because now it's not pulling up. There we go. Okay, great. So especially when I was new to the business, I always had kind of like a little checklist to remind me of all the things that I needed to do. So Stephanie just really killed and went through that whole review, the MLS listing. Absolutely by far, look at the comps that are in the area, look at the recently solds, the under contracts, all those kind of things. So excuse me, before you even write the offer, make sure you call the listing agent and ask those questions. And Stephanie is great about this because she's really, really good about building rapport with those listing agents. Because remember that these are things that we can do that don't cost our clients any money, that can maybe help get their offer accepted, right? When an agent likes you and they know and they're confident in your ability, remember, they're married to you for the life of the transaction. So they want to pick somebody that they are going to enjoy working with or that they know is going to do a good job, right? So again, a big portion of this phone call is to build that rapport. Okay. So ask them, have there been any offers on the home? You should never, ever, ever submit an offer on a property unless the listing agent has ghosted you. Never submit a property or an offer without asking these questions. Okay. Because you need to know, are you writing an offer that they've already received 30 other offers? Maybe you need to have a come to Jesus conversation with your client and, maybe have more competitive terms when it comes to the offer writing. That might be something that needs to get bumped to the top, right? Where are your clients moving to? I love asking this question because as we know, it's vacant. So I necessarily for this property, I wouldn't say it's as applicable. But if you have people that live in the home, you're going to be able to find out, oh, are they moving out of state? So more than likely they're going to need more time on the escrow, right? Or they're going to have to close quickly to get out of the property. Ask if they have a preference for affiliate services. This is a big one, right? So rather than writing seller's choice in there, which in this market, this is what we're advising to do is write seller's choice. But rather than writing it in there, what if you could write the seller's actual choice in there? That's going to make the job so much easier for the listing agent, right? Then they don't have to counter it back in the terms. So ask them, do you have a preference for escrow? Do you have a preference for title? And then just write those title companies and escrow companies in there. Right? Super simple. Confirm submission details, right? So Stephanie showed on the MLS listing where it said submit offers to. I always like to double check that with the listing agent. Make sure that there's no errors in their email. Make sure that you're not actually send it to my team member or my admin assistant that's taking all the offers, right? Confirm that. And then always ask the question, are there any details that are not listed in the MLS? Now, this doesn't happen all the time, but there are sometimes instances that you don't see them listed in the MLS. For example, a death on the property, right? For example, an easement on the property. For example, some issues with title or ownership, whatever that may be. This gives the listing agent an opportunity to share or disclose that information before your clients actually get into contract. Again, all these things that we're sharing with you are to help give you a leg up on your competition rather than just submitting an offer blindly. Do you agree, Steph? What are some other questions and things that you like to ask the listing agent? Oh, you're muted, girl.
Jeez.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on, Hallie. And I always, it's just a matter of building rapport and just having those conversations and, what is it going to take for, for my client to, to get this off the market. I mean, right now it's, you know, especially there's just so many offers and a lot of them look the same. So it's like, you know, maybe a question could be too, is how can I differentiate myself more than, you know, differentiate myself from the 29 other offers that are coming in, right? What is that special little thing that it will take for my client to get it? Because, you know, I understand that money is, you know, that, you know, probably the estate wants as much money as they possibly can in there, but what's most concerning, you know, no contingencies or what is the case? But it's really, you know, hopefully that the agent on the other end will be receptive and have those conversations. I know some listing agents right now, when they're getting, you know, 20, 30, 40 offers, a lot of them shut down and aren't unfortunately returning the phone calls or doing anything like that. But it's just a matter of making sure that you stay professional and not frustrated and not snippy, not anything. I mean, I understand that you're doing everything to get your client's offer accepted or even just seen, but just make sure that you maintain that professionalism every step of the way, even though you may be frustrated and your client may be frustrated, because it's important now more than ever to keep your emotions between the lines.
Mhm.
So that's just some of my
And
thoughts
those
on that.
listing agents too, they have a lot of emotions they're going through. I mean, most of them, they're juggling tons of offers and showings and stress from sellers and getting this ready on the market. So, as frustrated as we may be, they're frustrated in a different way. So, I think that's what's important to keep in mind, that, you know, the struggle is always in the eye of the beholder. And so, as frustrated as we may be to try to get our clients' offers accepted, you know, they have their own trials and tribulations that they're going through. Absolutely. I love that, Stephanie. So our next phone call, we have a lot of phone calls before we actually write the offer, right? Yeah. Our next phone call should be to our lender, right? Or to the client's lender. Remember, a good relationship with their lender is going to make or break your deal, right? So we need to talk about our escrow length, right? We need to ask them, how short of an escrow length can we write on this offer? Again, in this competitive market, pretty standard is 30 to 45 days. 45 days is a lot, but most offers right now are requiring 30, but you can have that conversation with that listing agent before you go and call them. Contingency length, super important. Do not waive your appraisal contingency without speaking to the lender and setting those client expectations. So the most common counter offer that we're getting, obviously besides price, in this competitive market, is listing agents are asking their clients to waive their appraisal contingency. What does that mean? That basically means that the client is assuming responsibility. If the home does not appraise for the value that they're getting the loan on, the client assumes the responsibility of paying the difference in cash. Right now, in some instances, you can explain the risks to your clients and what that means, but you need to make sure that the lender says that they're liquid and that they're ready to make up the difference if for some reason it doesn't appraise. Right? Ask for a pre-qualification letter or DU approval, as well as proof of funds. Almost every single listing, almost every single offer needs to include that pre-approval, pre-qualification letter or DU approval, as well as proof of funds. Do not send it without them. Okay. Even though the contract lets you do that, I guarantee your offer will not get accepted if you don't send those over. Right. So don't make your client resend it to you. The lender should already have it, and you can, you know, save a little bit on your client. Ask them what type of loan type they're doing and how much down. Stephanie brought that up earlier. If they're doing an FHA, that might exclude them from this property. I mean, I don't know the condition because I didn't see it in person, but, you know, exposed wires and chipping paint, all of those are going to be something that's going to have to be negotiated if you have an FHA offer, right? And then, of course, how much down? You're going to need that money to write the offer itself. Their interest rate. Right now, interest rates are fluctuating so much. And Stephanie and I are going to show you how to protect your buyers by writing their interest rate into the RPA. It's extremely important because even a quarter of a point change in interest rate could sometimes mean a couple hundred more dollars a month than what your clients can pay or want to pay for the home. And you don't want that to make or break your deal. So make sure you're asking what the interest rate is so you can help protect your clients by writing it into the RPA. Confirm liquidity for the EMD or the earnest money deposit, right? Some people call it the escrow money deposit, but it's the earnest money deposit. And that's that deposit that comes from your down payment as a show of good faith in starting the transaction. So that money is given in the first 3 days that you open escrow. So it's important to know that that $10,000 is liquid enough that your clients, at a drop of a hat, can go and initiate a wire transfer and get that into escrow. Sometimes they're not as liquid as they may seem. So it may be in a retirement account or an investment account, and it's going to take some time for them to get that money back. And if that's the case, you need to be aware when you're writing the offer. This is in a condo. It's a single family home, right? But if you are writing for a condo with FHA or VA, make sure that you confirm with your lender that it's FHA or VA approved, right? Don't trust the listing agent. So there is ways that you can check this on your own, but I say this is a good opportunity for you to build a better relationship with the lender and confirm the eligibility. They can look it up. It just takes a second. And then that way you make sure you don't have any problems. So many listing agents will put on there FHA or VA approved. Don't trust it, right? Double check and don't trust it because it could make or break your deal. Have any other questions, things? Otherwise, I think we could probably start writing the offer, don't you think? Stephanie,
Should we start writing? I mean, writing the offer.
I mean, that's what the next step says, write offer,
Yep.
right?
Write offer. Okay, let's see. Okay. Hold on a second.
And if you guys have any questions, make sure you're dropping them in the chat box, either on the Zoom or on the Facebook, because we're here to answer your questions.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, remember, we're going to pretend it's not. We'll have a special probate class.
Yeah.
This one's not it. So, oh gosh, I didn't even. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, so went into the zip forms, right? And then I'm typing in. You're like, I can see that you're typing. Lyndhurst Avenue, Camarillo. Okay. So then I always like doing the MLS Connect, right? So it pulls in all the information. Is my computer going to be slow? Okay, I think that's right for that one, listing ID.
So as you're doing that, Stephanie, I'm going to answer one of the questions. So the thing is Steve Waltzman asked, so we should keep the appraisal contingency. That makes sense. What about the loan contingency, right? So in my opinion, and Stephanie, correct me if you disagree, you should never lift the loan contingency unless you're doing an all cash offer, right? Appraisal contingency is lifting that is kind of like a gamble, right? It's kind of like going to Vegas, okay? Because there is a bit of what you can anticipate happening by doing things like Stephanie did, by checking the comps and making sure that the pricing that you're placing the offer supports that. And then if for some reason there is a difference between that dollar amount, just make sure that your client's ready and prepared to make up that difference. Does that make sense? You just need to make sure you really explain the risk that they're taking when they lift that appraisal contingency.
Yep. Sorry, they wasn't finding it. I didn't want to waste time trying to locate it in the MLS Connect.
Michael Jackson, you're writing offers for Michael Jackson? That's awesome.
You can tell all my some of my practice ones in here.
I know, mine too. Gary Keller has bought a lot of houses with me. It lives
Nice. Okay, is it popping up here? Sorry guys, my computer is a little slow. I gotta move you guys over here.
And Stephanie, where are you right now? What program are you in?
So I created a new contract, a new transaction, right? So for purposes of time, I'm just going to go into the documents. I wasn't able to connect because a lot of times they have the MLS connect and it wasn't finding the listing. So it auto populates all the information from the listing itself. So now I'm just going into, oh man, sorry guys, I don't know what the deal is with. It's really slow. So just going to pull up the residential purchase agreement. There we go.
And Stephanie, add in there too, my other favorite document that you guys, it really helps right now. Add in your summary of offer. I love it. It looks so neat and clean, and you have to do nothing when you add it in there.
In the all forms?
Yes. Yes, this is my favorite document. It's so easy, especially for the listing agent when they're presenting a bunch of different offers. It's a nice little one sheet that auto populates. It's summary of offer. There you go. Summary, RPA, not RIPA. Nope.
Oops.
There you go. Awesome. It's a nice little one sheet. We don't even need to pull it up until we're all done, and I'll show you the little magic that happens. Delete.
So slow. Okay. Anticipation, right? The suspense is killing everybody. Okay, so let me move this guy back over here. All right, so then, so some of you may know this, some of you may not know this, and then of the rest of you absolutely know this. So, you know, you pulled up the RPA, the residential purchase agreement, and then all of a sudden the first thing that pops up is the disclosure regarding real estate agency relationship. And the reason why these documents come up in order before you go to get to the RPA is because we have to establish agency, and we have to make sure that they have seen these and acknowledged these particular disclosures, because it indicates that they have in the actual residential purchase agreement in the RPA. Does that make sense? So we're not going to go ahead and go through all this because we're just writing the offer, and time is of the essence. This looks really, man, it's not really. Anyway, okay, so we're writing an offer today. So right, we click it on March 1st. This is an offer from Halley Wright.
Oh, I'm buying a house. Cool.
You are. Right, real properties acquired is 1835 Lyndhurst Avenue, Camarillo, in the city of Camarillo, county of Ventura. Now remember, everybody, you have to fill out everything, right? So anything that you leave blank, then will it has to be countered out. So like Halley mentioned, you know, off of her sheet, the more information that you have, the less that has to be countered. Right. So that's why you always want to have those conversations when, you know, building that rapport with the listing agent and knowing, hey, how can I write the perfect offer or close to it? So there's nothing that really has to be countered. Right. Does that make sense? So that's why that's one of the biggest reasons for your all the communication. So let's say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or whatever that is, 8, 8, 7, 8. Okay. So we want to make sure that the APN is in there. and then the purchase price. So does anybody in the stands want to, what do you guys want to offer? Or Hallie, you're the buyer. What would you like to offer?
So without having any knowledge of what's happening in the market, I think it's probably going to go for 650. In my opinion.
Yeah, at least for sure, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. But I'm just saying I probably wouldn't go any under 650.
Okay, so because of this particular nature of this home, she's going to offer 650,000. And how soon? And remember, you guys are always communicating with your buyers, whatever their expectation is. We are the facilitators of the transaction. So we find out, you know, we have the conversation with the listing agent. Hey, what is it going to take for us to get this house off the market and for my buyer to accept it, blah, blah, blah. And then you guys share that information with your buyer. So then they can make an educated decision, and dependent upon their motivation and their desire for this home, what they will do, right? You can give them suggestions, etc. So how many days, you know, how, because you're paying cash.
Huh? Yeah. We called the lender and he said, oh, I'm paying cash for this. Are we writing cash offer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So yeah, if it's a cash offer, let's do 14-day escrow.
Okay. So we're going to do 14-day escrow. Okay. So then guys, now the next thing, right, is the agency. So please keep in mind that you always have to fill out all this. You have to check out the boxes, check off the boxes. You have to put in the license number, right? You want to do your best to, you know, do your best to not have a counter come back. Okay, do most of the times counters come back? Yes, but you want to eliminate all the unnecessary stuff that has to be addressed on a counter. Does that make sense?
Yeah, nothing's a better feeling when you get a multiple counter back and the only thing that changes is the purchase price slightly, right? Everything else you're like, oh, I already wrote that in there, already did that, I've already met those expectations. It's a really good feeling and it puts you in a good negotiating position.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so seller's brokerage firm is Keller Williams Calabasas. And then you put their 018, put the license number, represents the seller.
Who's the buyer's agent?
Was it going to be me?
Yeah, why don't you put you? Let's
Okay.
say if you're the buyer's agent,
Oops.
what would you do?
All right, so then it's both buyer and seller because we're out of the same office.
Yes.
So it is Mina Cooper. She is the listing agent, right? Whatever her number happens to be. And then it's Keller Williams Calabasas. That is the listing or the selling agent, right? So that means we are dual agency.
Explain the difference, Stephanie.
Yep. So 012. Okay. I know mine. Okay. Since we are out of the same office, so I was going to do two different things. So since Mina is the listing agent and I am the selling agent representing the buyers, right? We're under the same broker, right? The same broker ID number, the same, you know, DBA, the whole thing. So Keller Williams Calabasas. So we're dual agency because the broker owns all the contracts, right? The broker owns all the contracts. So therefore, we're a dual agency representing both buyer and seller, even though there's different agents that are representing the seller and the buyer. So, because I was going down the information of you representing yourself, which
that was smart. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to stop you. I thought
no, but this is better. But I just want you guys to keep in mind too that let's say Hallie was representing a buyer from Keller Williams Coastal, right? And she's writing an offer on a Keller Williams Calabasas. Yes, we all have the same broker, but it's not the same company, if you will. So therefore, it's not dual agency if we're writing offers on either West Side or Coastal, or even South Bay for that matter. Does that make sense, guys? So that would be, you know, you represent the seller and then that office represents the buyer. Even though we have the same broker, it's structured differently. Okay. So in this instance, we are dual agents. Okay. So the initial deposit, so we're writing, where's my phone? We're writing an offer for $650,000. Typically, it's 3%, right, of whatever the purchase price is for the initial deposit or the earnest money deposit. So Hallie, are you okay? Let's see, 3% is 19,500. Is that what you're okay with putting down?
Yeah, yes, for my EMD, absolutely.
Okay, so we're putting 19. So already we have 20 minutes left to do this. Okay, so we're putting an initial deposit of 19,500, and then it defaults, right, to deliver direct deposit to escrow holder by electronic funds. Okay, you guys don't have to check the box, you know, this other box and put wire transfer. You guys don't have to do that, right? Because it already defaults to it by electronic funds. Right now, we aren't really seeing increased deposits. The only time that I do see increased deposits, let's say, you know, they wanted to put the $20,000 down and they only had 10 right now, and they needed, an extra, let's say 5 days to get the other 10 or the other 9,500. Then you could put increased deposit within 5 days after acceptance, right? That you guys would put the additional funds in. So, but typically we just do the 3% here, and then it's done by, you know, electronic fund transfer. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It's important to know too on the last page that 3% is all that can be kept for liquidated damages for the buyer not executing the contract, right? So some sellers might ask more than 3%, but it's important for your buyers to know that in theory, in a dispute, all they can keep is that 3%. It's actually on page 8 of 10. If you guys are curious about what that is, 8 of 10, 21B.
Yeah, so thank you, Hallie. Yeah, so that's why the 3% is so popular too, because it, you know, the buyers are at risk of losing that if they were to breach the contract. Okay, and then in this particular transaction, oops, hold on, Monty, I'm just gonna undo that real quick since we're live on Facebook. Okay, thank you. So this is an all cash offer. Right, so then this is where we would go and check all cash offer. It indicates that no loan is needed to purchase the property. This offer is not contingent on buyer obtaining a loan. Written verification of sufficient funds to close this transaction is attached to this offer or within blah, blah, blah days. Okay, attach the proof of funds, right? You just, you send that. So it's already indicating that it's not contingent on them doing a loan, nor and that the proof of funds are attached.
So Stephanie, if I write an all cash offer and you check that box, can I still decide to change my mind and get a loan?
Only if you put it in the other terms, additional financing terms.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you wanted to have the ability to be able to get a hard money loan, right, on this particular property. So you would buyer has the right to obtain hard money financing at no cost to the seller.
Perfect. I just had that question come up recently where they had asked. So, yeah, just important to know.
Yeah, so you would want to be able to put that there because a lot of these all cash buyers will throw that in. So then they can, you know, instead of, you know, liquidating, you know, instead of using all their cash, they can go get a hard money, you know, hard money loan on the deal.
And lots of
So,
times they'll write that because they're writing multiple offers on places, you know, and they'll say, oh, I'll pay cash for this one and then I'll get a loan for the other, depending on when they get accepted and when they're opening escrow. I've had that happen.
yeah, so that's pretty much it on this particular, as far as this page goes, right? On making sure that everything is all filled out, address, you know, when we're closing, how much we're offering, how much deposit, it's all cash offer, giving us the opportunity to obtain hard money financing at, you know, at no cost to seller. And so that means that we're bringing in the extra balance of down payment or purchase price, the $630,500. It automatically populates for you once you put the initial deposit monies in.
Stephanie, really quick, Cecilia asked, what about the interest rate? So Cecilia, we're doing an all cash offer, but if you were not doing an all cash offer, what I referenced before is that what you would do is you would go in here, Steph, if you kind of highlight that right there in this sentence, this loan shall be at a fixed rate not to exceed blank percent. Okay. That's where you want to put the interest rate in that they're getting, but you want to cushion it by 1/4 of a point, right? So if my lender tells me, Hallie, you are going to get a 3% interest rate on your loan, Stephanie would write in there 3.25, right? And that's, again, going to give your buyers an out. If for some reason the interest rates took a dive and they're going to have to pay more money, it allows them to be able to back out of the deal because it's now going to cost them more money. But it's not applicable in this instance because we're writing a cash offer. I just want to address that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, so if you were doing a loan, then you would do, let's say they're getting a $500,000 loan, and then it's conventional financing, which it defaults to, right? And not to exceed. And then, like I said, you're always in communication with the lender and asking questions with your buyers, like, okay, if the interest rates, you know, where it's volatile right now, I mean, it's still cheap money, but, you know, any kind of shift in the interest rate for their loan can, you know, can possibly take them out of their comfort zone, right, on what they're comfortable paying on their monthly mortgage. So you can put, you know, like I said, 3.25, 3.5, or whatever that conversation is and whatever they feel comfortable. And if you want to put, regardless of the loan type, buyer shall pay points not to exceed even 1% or 0.5%, because sometimes, you know, like we've had it before where some loans aren't getting done on time, right? And they have a lock, and then all of a sudden, right, they have to pay another point because they've missed the lock. So they're going to have to spend, I mean, had a couple clients have to spend, you know, a couple $1,000s or so to get their loan, right? And they had to pay for locking it, and then they had to pay for buying down the rate. Okay, so if they have this in here, you know, and sometimes it all depends on, you know, so many different factors of how all contingency has been removed, all that kind of stuff. But, you know, putting this in here from a buyer's perspective helps protect them if there happens to be any craziness that goes on. And then some of the good listing agents out there will counter that out, right? They'll counter it out to where, you know, buyer to obtain financing at the prevailing rate. Right. So then that blows out. But sometimes listing agents don't do that. So it just all depends on, you know, it's kind of just like Hallie said, a safety net for you, for your buyers. Any questions?
Doing good. Keep going.
All right. Okay. So we're all cash, right? Okay, let's go.
Yeah. All cash.
Go back to all cash. We'll take this little guy out. Okay. Boom. So verification of down payment and closing costs, we've already indicated, right? You can see that I can't check it there, right? Because it's already indicated on page 1 in the financing terms that the verification of funds happens to be attached. Now, this is a conversation you'll want to have with appraisal contingency and removal. Okay, Hallie, you are paying all cash. You're coming in $51,000 over. Are you worried about the appraisal? How badly do you want this house? Nope.
Nope. Take it off.
Take it off. So now this agreement is not contingent upon a written appraisal of the property. And especially where it's an all cash deal, then there's nothing, she's probably not going to order an appraisal. And even if she did, it was just for, things and giggles, right? So, and then they like that they don't have to worry about anything, whether it comes in, doesn't come in. Do we want to talk about what happens if it was if it was a loan on it?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah. What would happen if we said not again? I know we kind of talked about that a bit earlier, but.
Yeah, so let's say you guys have a loan on it's contingent on the loan, but you guys don't want a contingent on the appraisal. I mean, I've had, Rich, if you hear this, cover your ears, but I've had I know some agents have removed, because they have to be competitive, right? So they'll say it's not contingent upon the written appraisal, and they just cross their fingers and their toes that the appraisal comes in. Okay, so, but you do have to have a conversation, absolutely. And you can advise them in getting in writing, or just have an email conversation or text conversation as well, that, okay, we're writing this offer for $650,000. If we don't have it on contingent upon the appraisal and it comes in at $625,000, then you have to make up the difference. Right. So instead of coming in with, 100,000, let's say they have to come in with 125 to make up the difference. So they can either, obviously negotiate again with the client and just ask if they can meet in the middle, or, negotiate a new sales price. All that can happen, but the seller, especially in this market, does not have to do anything. Right. No matter what market, they don't have to do anything. They can just say, no, it's not contingent upon the appraisal. So you're going to have to figure it out and come up with the additional 25,000. But you cannot cancel, even if you have active contingencies, you cannot cancel based on the appraisal. Because there's always that argument too, well, I can't get the loan if the appraisal didn't come through. Well, yes, that may be accurate, right? But then you would be breaching the contract, because you cannot cancel based on the fact that it didn't come in at appraisal. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. So loan terms, obviously this is all whited out, right? Because there's no loan contingency, because you're coming in all cash. So you don't have to reiterate that at all. Sale of buyer's property. This one, it's not contingent, right, on the buyer's ability to obtain financing on the sale of the property owned, right? Then also what we always have to do here in the addenda and advisories, right? We always want to put in our Keller Williams Coastal or Calabasas, whichever one. So I'm Calabasas, Keller Williams Calabasas affiliation, right? And then other is Keller Williams, Calabasas addendum. Okay, so we just make that part of the agreement out of the gate. Fair enough. And then if there's other terms that you wanted in here, let's say, because Halley's a licensed real estate agent, so I'd have to say buyer is a licensed real estate professional. Okay, we have to disclose that she knows what she's doing, right?
I do have to say, if you're writing an RPA, especially for the first time, never, ever, ever write something in the other terms or notes or blank or whatever that is without talking to your coach, mentor, or team leader. Okay. That's where people get in trouble, because you can write just about anything, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then, yeah, so I'm not going to do any more what ifs. Okay. So, yeah, but we have to disclose that she's a licensed real estate professional. That has to be disclosed. Allocation of costs. So here, seller would ask seller to pay for the environmental, the NHD. We like to use my NHD, best value. I always like to get the environmental. Like I said, if you're looking for other ways to beat out the competitors, you can say that the buyer will pay for it. I mean, so like I said, there's got to be different ways for you to help, you know, like one of the questions, hey, what can we do to set ourselves apart? This is where, you know, if there's anything else that you want to pay for. I mean, obviously on this particular home, we are, let me do that real quick. Well, it doesn't matter what kind of home, but our recommendation to you is sometimes people will put seller here to pay for pest inspection, right? Our suggestion to you is to not do that, right? Because if you happen to be getting a loan or anything like that, all of a sudden the pest inspection becomes part of the agreement. And if there happens to be a, let's say they have to tent the home, or there's massive work or anything on this property, then it has to be done. It has to be done before the loan can be approved, right? And they have to have clearance, the whole bit. So it's really best to have the pest inspection done as part of the buyer inspections. And then you can negotiate that in the RR, in your request for repairs. So on this particular one, we're not asking for anything. We are asking for the seller to do, you know, the government retrofit, all that kind of stuff. And we are required to have a certificate of compliance on all our closings.
Hey, Steve just said, do lenders require a termite inspection or only specifically when it has to be done? Steve, only specifically when it has to be done. And in most instances, that instance is a VA loan when it has to be done, right? But when you do include it into the contract, in theory, they do need to see that the work was done and completed and finished. So just keep that in mind. That's why we suggest to not write it in the contract.
Yeah, thanks, Hallie. Yeah, so any, you know, like I said, the conventional loans, all cash and all that kind of stuff, or well, you were talking about loan, but the conventional, no. Just make that part, if the buyer wants to, you know, just make that part of their inspections. You know, they have the house inspection, roof, sewer, you know, plumbing, blah, 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 you know, pest, whatever that they want to do. I mean, there's a wide array of things that they can do. And then just negotiate, you know, whatever findings that you wish. Okay, escrow and title. All right, we need to wrap up here. Okay, escrow.
We're almost done. We're almost done through the big beefy portion.
Yep. So escrow and title, buyer and seller shall pay escrow fee, right? So you can do split 50-50, right? You can do that one, or you can do each shall pay their own.
It's important to understand the difference, right? So when you write split 50-50, remember, it costs a lot more to sell your home than it is to buy the home. Okay. So it's important to understand the difference. Each to pay their own fees mean they're responsible for their half of the lane, right? I'm responsible for this one and you're responsible for this one. But when you write 50-50 in there, in theory, all the fees will go together in one big pot and get split down the middle. Now, that's not going to come out favorably for your buyer. So it's just something to keep in mind, but it might help if they're willing to pay a little bit more money, and that's okay. It might help to get your offer accepted, right? Because then you're helping take some of those fees away from the seller.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's sometimes, you know, sellers can maybe be getting some kind of break on their escrow fee or what have you. And, and then the seller would be like, well, I don't want to split 50-50 with them, because then the buyer gets the opportunity or the benefit of my negotiations. So I don't know. I mean, each shall pay your own, I think, is more popular right now. It used to be always 50-50. But again, you have your conversation. Have the conversation with the listing agent. I mean, if you're wanting to make this as perfect as possible, it's all about the communication, no matter what we do and what part of the transaction that we are in. Okay, then you can put seller's choice, or you can say, hey, Pacific Coastline Escrow, right? Whoops. There you
And
go.
again,
And-
I suggest, just like Stephanie said, write in there their choice. If they,
Mhm.
rather than writing seller's choice, write in there what they want, you know.
Yep, and this is our choice.
This is our choice.
This
It
is the
our
seller's choice, Pacific Coastline Escrow.
It is our choice.
And then we always mark seller to pay for owner's title insurance policy.
Mhm.
And then let's say we ask them, hey, who's your title company? And they go, hey, it is Clearmark Title. We're like, okay, so we put that in there. And then other costs, right? So seller shall pay for county transfer tax. Seller shall pay for city transfer tax.
What do you do if you don't know there's a city or county transfer tax? What do you do?
A lot of times I just put them there, but if I know, because I think I don't think Camarillo has any, but you can always do if any, right? Or you just ask the question.
Yeah, yeah, or if applicable. You know, when in doubt, write if applicable at the end, right? Or if applicable.
Yeah,
Or
so
any, yeah.
Yeah, or if applicable, whatever, whatever, you can just make it, hey, if there happens to be any, you can do it. This particular one does not have a HOA. And then seller shall pay for if there happens to be any additional things. I can't think of anything right at the moment. And then on this property, I would not be asking for a home warranty, right? So I would check buyer waives the purchase of a home warranty plan, right? But if you wanted to have a home warranty plan, then I would just click seller, right? Or you can even have buyer do it. If you're just like, okay, I really, really want to get this house, we absolutely need a home warranty, I'll go ahead and buy it. But typically we do seller, make sure that you have a conversation with your Old Republic home warranty rep, Christy or Jessica, find out exactly what the rates are. So you can say not to exceed 600, standard, upgraded, you always want to check upgraded. And then we do Old Republic home protection. And then whatever here is available, like if I would always put air conditioning, and then if it has a pool or spa, right, then you just add those, And it just saved for me. Hallie?
No, I said love it.
No. Okay, so we're at 3:59. So we're basically, we hit the big stuff.
Oh yeah, we hit the big stuff. We did good.
So,
we did
but I
good.
think,
How about any other questions? Comments? I think we answered all your questions. Yeah, well, we answered the what's a strong EMD, 3% more or less. Strong EMD is the 3%. If you go any above that, in theory, it can't be held. So I never suggest putting more than 3%. Yes, Edward, the class is recorded. How about any of y'all on Facebook? Any of y'all have questions? Thanks, Stephanie. You're great.
You're awesome.
The best agent. Thank you for representing me.
You're
Love
welcome.
it.
We'll find out on Wednesday if we get it or not. So.
Yeah.
No, but we wrote it perfect. We had conversations with the listing agent and they said, this is what you need to do. And so we did it.
Oh, show the summary of offer really quick. I forgot about that. Somebody asked that. So if you haven't used this little document, it's really fun to just throw in there at the end. So after you've been done writing your RPA, it's not going to be totally complete, but it should, if you go back to your transaction, there you go. It should auto-populate all of this information. And I love putting this before I mail it or email it over, because it gives a really quick summary of every key thing in the RPA that your clients are going to be concerned about, right? So it's not fully filled out because we didn't do the no loan contingency, and so we missed a couple boxes as we were skipping through. But this takes really no other time, right, to fill this out. And it's a really good way for them to present the offer to the sellers. It's really easy because they can lay it down and go, here's all the details, pop, 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 right?
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Very
yes.
cool.
So Steve, really quick, you guys asked, where do you find the KW Coastal Affiliation Form and the addendum to the RPA? All of those documents, either your TC has them and or they're found on your intranet. Okay. If you do not know how to access your intranet, contact your director of first impressions and they can help you find that. It's on the white pages. Then you click on the intranet and all of those documents are going to be found there. Good one. Where do we find the one-page document with all the same place, Heidi, same place with all the checklists in the KW intranet. Not the internet, but the intranet.
Yeah, so you go to my KW, did you already say this? mykw.kw.com?
No, you went into more depth than I was like, contact your director of first impressions. If you don't know, it's on your white pages. Or on the page where you go to log in the MyKW, and then you hit the intranet and you go into office documents. But if you guys have a hard time with it, contact your director of first impressions and they can help you get there. Okay.
Absolutely.
How about
Okay,
anything else?
everybody. Are we good?
I think we're good. Great.
All right.